When people think of George Carlin, they usually think of one thing: the guy who destroyed religion, politics, and polite conversation. But that version of Carlin, the black-clad philosopher comic, was actually the last version of a man who spent decades failing, reinventing himself, doubting himself, and changing his mind. Today, we're not doing the obvious facts. These are 10 lesser-known, genuinely interesting facts about George Carlin, covering his childhood, family life, early failures, spiritual views, and the strange personal contradictions that shaped his comedy. Let's get into it. Number 10. George Carlin was raised almost entirely by women. George Carlin's worldview didn't begin in comedy clubs. It began at home. His father, Patrick Carlin, was an alcoholic who left the family when George was just 2 months old. From that point on, Carlin was raised almost entirely by his mother, Mary, along with a tight circle of strong, no-nonsense Irish Catholic women. And that mattered. Growing up without a dominant male authority figure shaped how Carlin saw the world. He didn't inherit automatic respect for hierarchy. He learned early to question power instead of submitting to it. And he was far less impressed by titles, uniforms, or so-called respectability. Carlin later reflected on this directly, saying, "I was raised by women. I didn't grow up with that male authority thing hanging over me." That upbringing helps explain why his comedy rarely punched down, but relentlessly punched up. Number 9. He was a straight-A student who hated school. Here's something that surprises people. George Carlin was smart, like academically smart. He scored high in language and reading, and teachers saw his potential early. What he hated wasn't learning, it was authority. Rules without reason. Discipline without logic. Respect that wasn't earned. By 17, Carlin had been expelled from multiple schools, constantly in trouble for talking back and questioning teachers. He was labeled a problem student. Carlin later put it simply, "I loved learning. I hated school." He eventually dropped out and joined the US Air Force, where, ironically, he became a radar technician. But authority followed him there too. After multiple court-martials for insubordination, Carlin was discharged. He later joked that the military didn't teach him discipline, it taught him how absurd, unquestioned authority could be. Number 8. His first comedy career was clean and forgettable. Before the legendary counterculture Carlin, there was clean-cut, suit-wearing George Carlin. In the late 1950s and early 60s, Carlin performed safe observational comedy, non-offensive jokes, and television-friendly material. And it worked. He appeared some 130 times on The Tonight Show, released albums, and made good money. But he hated it. Carlin later admitted he felt like a fraud, saying, "I was successful and miserable." The audience loved him. He didn't love himself. Number 7. He married young and stayed married for life. For someone who spent his career tearing down institutions, George Carlin was surprisingly traditional in one area. He married Brenda Hosbrook in 1961 at just 24 years old. They stayed married for 37 years, until her death in 1997. That's rare in Hollywood. Even rarer for a comedian who joked, "Marriage is an institution, and who wants to live in an institution?" Carlin admitted the contradiction. He loved mocking institutions, but personally, he relied on stability. The marriage wasn't perfect, as Carlin struggled with addiction. But through it all, he stayed deeply loyal. Number 6. He had only one child and took fatherhood seriously. George Carlin had one daughter, Kelly Carlin, born in 1963. Unlike many comedians of his era, Carlin was deeply involved, emotionally present when sober, and genuinely concerned with how his work affected his child. Kelly later said her father was more thoughtful at home than people would expect, and that they often took long drives together just talking. And that's the irony. On stage, Carlin joked that society loves children, but doesn't actually care about them, saying, "If you're preborn, you're fine. If you're preschool, you're fucked." Offstage, he softened, proof that the man behind the mic wasn't the same as the voice criticizing the world. Number 5. His career nearly died before his reinvention. By the late 1960s, George Carlin felt stuck. Not because he lacked success, but because he no longer believed in what he was doing. Audiences were changing, the counterculture was rising, and his clean, television-friendly act didn't feel true anymore. Booking slowed, venues got smaller, younger comics surged ahead. Then Carlin made a rare choice. He grew his hair long, dropped the suit, and stopped censoring himself. Not as a gimmick, but as an act of self-respect. As Carlin put it, I decided I was going to do exactly the kind of comedy I wanted to do, and if I failed, at least I'd fail being myself. That decision didn't save his career. It redefined it. Number 4, 7 Dirty Words wasn't about swearing. George Carlin's most famous routine, 7 words you can never say on television, is often misunderstood. It wasn't really about profanity. It was about control. Who decides what's acceptable, why certain sounds offend us, and how power hides behind the idea of decency. In 1972, Carlin was arrested in Milwaukee after performing the routine at Summerfest. The charges were later dismissed, but the moment mattered. As Carlin explained, "I'm not interested in shocking people, I'm interested in making them think about why they're shocked." That single joke eventually sparked a Supreme Court case on free speech. Carlin never testified, he just watched as comedy became constitutional history. Number 3, he didn't believe in God, but couldn't stop talking about religion. George Carlin didn't just doubt religion, he challenged it, publicly and relentlessly. He rejected organized religion, divine authority, and the idea that the universe enforces moral justice. To Carlin, religion wasn't harmless belief. It was a system of control. He called it a psychological crutch, a storytelling machine, and a way to manage fear, especially fear of death. As he put it, religion has actually convinced people that there's an invisible man living in the sky who watches everything you do. And yet, Carlin admired the myth-making, the symbolism, the rituals, the drama. He just refused to believe the literal claims. In his words, "It's the greatest story ever told, just not a true one." Number 2, his comedy got darker because he was paying attention. Late career George Carlin wasn't angry for shock value. He was reacting to what he saw everywhere. Corporate power swallowing democracy, environmental collapse treated as a joke, media manipulation, and a culture that rewarded dishonesty. That's why he joked, "I root for the big asteroid." Not because he hated people, but because, as he put it, the planet will be fine, the people are fucked. Carlin didn't think humanity was evil. He thought we were careless, arrogant, and unwilling to learn. "This isn't pessimism," he said. "It's realism." His comedy didn't get darker. The world did, and he refused to look away. Number 1, he never thought comedy could save the world. George Carlin was often called a truth teller, but he never believed comedy could fix society. He didn't see jokes as medicine. He saw them as mirrors. Carlin believed comedy didn't prevent decline, it documented it. That's why he never offered solutions. As he put it, "I don't have solutions, I just have observations." And those observations still land today. Carlin warned that people don't want truth, they want comfort. And comedy, at its best, removes that comfort. He wasn't trying to save the world. He was trying to tell the truth while it fell apart. That honesty, more than the jokes, is why people are still watching him now. So when people remember George Carlin as just a loud comic with dirty words, they miss the point. He was a meticulous writer who treated comedy like philosophy. A private man who valued discipline as much as rebellion. A skeptic who questioned everything, including himself. He didn't chase approval. He chased clarity, and that's why his work still cuts through the noise, not because it was shocking, but because it was honest.